Yep.
Do you want to do the big ideas? What's the big idea for reading comp, and then I'll go into the model.
Sure. I was going to do the other book though, the Iris and Walter.
As a skill?
Yeah, no, that's a PQ one.
Oh, that changed to a TPQ one?
Yeah. Okay.
I think this one has a lot more rigor because it's a lesson learned.
Okay. So some of the big ideas for next week are lesson learned. So let me backtrack. We're starting a new unit.
There you go.
We're starting a new unit next week. So animals is kaput. We're starting. We're going back into realistic fiction, we're starting realistic fiction. So you'll notice in the lesson plans, like we're going back. Some of the lesson plans are skill based, and 2 of them are TDQ based. So that's kind of like a happy medium of what we were doing before, what we started doing like as a school, and now it's like they're all joined together. So some of the things that we're covering next week, character development as a whole is like a big theme for this unit. So that would be character traits. We're talking about the plot with specific focus on problem and solution. Lesson learned, which I'm going to be touching on. There's a kind of interesting author's purpose, but not in the way that we've been doing it. So the Iris and Walter are great friends. The author's purpose would just be like the main topic of the book and finding specific evidence for that. And also ending out with character motivation.
That's really distracting.
It is. I'm like,
Is it coming from somewhere?
It's coming from the computer. Sorry, I'll fix it after. So I'm going to be focusing on the lesson learned. I'm sorry, I have the other one. So we're using Little Bill and Shipwreck Saturday, which was past. And the question, the culminating TBQ is what is the lesson that Little Bill learns in the story? And so the big focus on this is making sure that you have tons of text evidence and like supporting details.
So they have to have a claim. What is
this is a lesson
this
learned.
is the lesson Little Bill learned is, and then have the evidence supporting that.
Yeah.
So this is a great one where kids will have to use the habits of book discussion because it is a really long answer because they have to have, well, this is what happened, etc. And in the end, Little Bill found out that blah, blah, blah. Like, but it goes through like almost a synopsis of the story.
Yeah. Which is, I think, building on just like the rigor, I think, of these lessons have greatly increased because the books that we had before were pretty short books. Really, like all of those books that we did in Unit 3, they were like easy to complete within a certain amount of time. Then we did these animal books, which were even shorter, and now we're going back to larger books, which I talked about is very,
these are chapter
lots
books.
of evidence for that.
That's what I was going to ask.
These are
actually chapter books,
these
right?
are this is a level L. Some of your kids will be able to read it, and so I was going to walk through a little bit of it with you guys.
So I'm not doing
You could. So this is is Little Bill their first exposure to a chapter book?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
reading comp.
yeah, and reading
And
comp.
reading
is
comp.
the
Some
first
of them are
exposure.
just starting
Yeah.
to
Right. So for kids who aren't in chapter books yet, the introduction to this book, to a chapter book, will be really important. This is a chapter book, and it's about Little Bill. We're going to learn about Little Bill and all the characters, and not all the characters, and the relationships he has with other characters. And in chapter books, it's really important to follow them along and how those relationships build, and what the characters learn about each other, and what we learn about those characters. So then it primes up for the chapter 1. Hi, I'm Little Bill. This is a story about a boat that I made all by myself. I named it the Moby Dick. One Saturday morning, I woke up and saw that it was bright and sunny outside. Hooray! I could go with my brother to the park and sail my new boat. So keep reading. How does Little Bill feel about this boat? What can you tell already? He likes it, he feels excited about it. Tell me more, something a little more precise.
I know that he likes his boat because it says he can't wait to go outside and sail it.
Yes. But I'm going to go back and read this part, and then maybe we can add on. This is a story about a boat that I made all by myself. So let's go back. How does Little Bill feel about his boat now, Portia?
he's really proud of the boat that he made because he did it all by himself.
Okay, so these are some things that you're going to want to come back to because you're going to read. He runs into the kitchen. He wants us to wear his hat this way. It's going to be cool. I'm going to finish my breakfast first to go back to go and sail my boat. I grabbed my lunch, kissed Mom, high-fived Dad, and ran out the door behind Bobby. Oops, I almost forgot my boat. I ran back to my room and carefully took the boat off the shelf. I couldn't wait to test it out and to show it off. I ran back outside to meet Bobby. So now let's think about, what does little Bill want? What does he want? Jana, what does he want?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking, he wants to show the boat off.
Yeah. Katie, do you agree with Shanna? Yeah. Why?
Other people look proud of
To
him.
notice his awesome boat, right? And there's evidence in the text that says, I know he wants to show it off and test it out because he just said, I want to show it off and test it out. And he's proud of it, so he's totally going to want to show it off. And then why? Because he worked really hard on it. So then chapter 2, Bobby's friends were waiting at the corner. We started to walk towards the park. Hey, little Bill, did you make that boat? Matt asked. Yes, I said proudly. See, you guys were right. You don't think it'll sail, do you? Asked Brian. I nodded. Yes, I do. It'll sail all right, said Matt. Right to the bottom of the lake. And I'm going to ask a question. Why? That made me mad. I worked hard to make my boat, and I was going to sail it. Why is little Bill mad about what Matt said about his boat? Susan!
Worked really hard on the boat.
Yeah. And it wasn't very,
Nice.
kind or nice or respectful for somebody else's thing. So then you're going to keep reading. And there's this little girl, her name is Kiku, and she makes origami. And lo and behold, she goes, this is origami, Kiku's grandmother said. The Japanese art of paper folding. You can make many things, like a swan, a flower, and a fan. Girl things, I thought. And boats, said Kiku's grandmother. I showed them the boat that I had made. The sails are paper, the rest is wood. Cool, said Kiku. So Grandma had a pretty cool thing, right? And then they went to go sail the boat. And Moby, and it sailed right away. And then Kiku said, don't let it go too far. But I had a long roll of string until Moby Dick was in the middle of the lake. And then disaster. What was the disaster? Suddenly a rowboat came by. Swish! The ripples in the lake grew into waves. Splash! A wave rolled over my boat and smash! No, went my boat into another boat. Guessing that little pill is not feeling so good. Kiku told me to rewind the swing, but I was too shocked to move. Kiku took the string from my hand and pulled the boat in for me. Her grandmother came over to us with 2 paper boats, but I didn't want to sail a paper boat. My boat was ruined. The mast was broken, the sails were soaked. I didn't want Kiku to see me cry, so I ran home without my boat, without my lunch, and without my brother. What happened when Kiku tried to help little Bill at first? Kiku told me to rewind the string, but I was too shocked to move, so Kiku did it for me. And her grandmother came over with us with 2 paper boats, but I didn't want to sail the paper boat. What happened when Kiku tries to help little Bill at first? Susan.
He's reluctant to have her help him
How do you know? Tell me more.
because
You didn't want to do
he didn't. He didn't want to do it at first. He didn't want to sail the paper boat.
Why do you think that he did? Why do you think he was reluctant or resistant to doing any of those things?
Hubris. Can we teach them that word? It's when you're too proud and your pride leads to your downfall. Can we teach them?
Sure. But he's been thinking about his
Boat.
boat and that it's broken and he's too upset to.
I just had a question. Would kids get tripped up by the word at first? Because when you said it at first, I was
I was
like,
thinking that too. Like,
but
what
he
did she
was
do
too
before?
shocked. He couldn't move. Like,
So
he
right.
survived.
So then you also noticed, what did I do after that?
Like he went back. And
Yeah.
he was driving.
I read it again
Mm-hmm.
and then asked the question again.
Okay.
And it didn't lower the rigor.
Is that question like too leading though? Of like at first, like can it just
Because
be?
this is the only time.
What did she do to help little Bill?
Yeah.
She did a couple
Like
times.
that's it.
That's
Like just
fine.
leave off the at
Yeah.
first.
That's fine. But we would need to get for little Bill. And then chapter 3, he goes home, he's upset, he throws himself on the bed. Where's your brother? And then Dad goes, you know what? Let's go back to the park and see what we can do. I didn't want to go. Bobby and his friends would laugh at me. Kiku would laugh at me too. Do I have to go? My father nodded. I think it would be best. Besides, I'll be with you. So now, why is little Bill resistant to going back to the park or reluctant? How do you know that? Who has some evidence to share to make that claim?
Well, he says Bobby and his people would laugh at him.
And Kiku too. And then at the park, there's a crowd, and guess what happened? Look, said Dad. He pulled up the cap off my face. What do you think they're looking at?
A kite.
Dun dun dun! It is a kite. Everyone was looking up at the beautiful kite that flew over the lake. The tail was made of Kiku's ribbon, and the frame, Kiku told me, was made from the sticks from my boat. And Kiku gave me the roll of string. That was a great kite, Bobby said. It's my boat, I said. Well, what's left of it? Cool, man, said Bobby. So, what did little Bill see when he went back to the park? You're gonna cry, aren't you?
That's love right there.
I know, right? It's good. So, like, what did little Bill see when he went back to the park? He saw a kite. And when little Bill sees his boat as origami, what does he realize?
This boat isn't the way that he made it. It's amazing the way he is now.
Much in it?
He read it off the lesson later. I want to know what
He
he
was proud about doing it all by himself, but he realized that it's better when he uses someone else's help.
Yeah. Or maybe it didn't turn out exactly as planned, but something really great still came out of it, right? And so then everyone laughed, and that was okay with me. And so let's think about, well, what did little Bill learn in this story?
None of things don't have to be perfect. Things don't always have to go the way as planned, and he can still have fun and feel proud of himself.
You should accept help.
Yes, that is a sub lesson learned. What do you think, Shayna?
I already read.
I know, but what do you think for yourself?
I was thinking what Portia said.
Okay.
Things don't always go as planned, and sometimes we have to adjust
Mhm.
accordingly. And it's not always a bad thing.
Flexible.
Yeah, and it's not always a bad thing. And then, can you tell how that happened in Little Bill?
Yeah. So like he wanted to make the boat himself, and he did make the boat himself.
Yeah.
But then kind of fell apart. But then when Kiku helped, like things were able to still work out in the end using someone's help, which wasn't what he planned, but ultimately still.
And it still turned out
Yeah.
right.
So it's also important to know that it's okay to accept help.
Yeah. So
Because I
your
know-
discussion, and there's evidence for both the help and
Things don't always go as planned.
things don't always go as planned. I think those two are pretty strong with evidence, and I think you could have great conversations, book discussions around both topics if you guys have time.
Well, that's what I was gonna come to. One of my questions, which I feel like probably is a question that we all have, is what happens like with, because you have to get through this entire book to be able to fully answer the question. What happens like if we run out?
So I think that we're gonna have to, when you guys are co-planning, there's some questions that are like high priority questions, and then there's some questions that you'll have to edit out due to time. Like if push came to shove and you're like, crap, I don't have enough time, there's some questions that are gonna have to come out, and then there are a few questions that you're gonna have to keep, because if you don't ask those questions, they will not be able to answer the lesson plan questions.
I have a question. So you don't intend for us to actually read it as you modeled it, where you like skim over a couple pages in the interest of time? Okay, good.
No, I have 10 minutes and not
Yeah,
35.
No, I get it.
Or really 7 minutes or so, yeah.
Cool.
So should I add more questions in?
No.
Okay.
Because
There are
there's
only
only-
five.
Then
Yeah.
it's gonna be too long.
That, well, I think,
we only got the books this morning, so there
Yeah,
are
we
only
got it this
5
morning.
here, so I didn't get to add in additional
no.
questions.
I don't
so-
think that, if you're gonna ask any questions, they're all about engagement right there. Fast moving, nothing that's gonna draw out any time.
And what about for turn and talk?
Turn and talks are planned in there.
That was one of the things I was gonna say in terms of the practice, like, for the TDQ-based lessons, the engagement strategies are built in. Not to say that you can't add your own, but it tells you.
So as far as like, after walking through, I did speed version, stopping at the critical places. Like, what do you expect kids to walk away with after reading this text?
Well, I mean, ideally, they're strengthening their skill of being able to extrapolate a lesson learned from the text.
And this
Which
is the
they're gonna
first time,
need.
this is the first time that they're gonna encounter this. So you may, during that last turn and talk might need a think aloud. Here is the first part I'm gonna ask. And it might be, like we're gonna do some thinking together. Some kids may get it. Your high kids are like, oh yeah. But the other kids that aren't reading at a level L or not even close, they're gonna need some scaffolds to help get them there and help kids
Some
unpack.
of our high kids are still struggling, to be
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
with the exception of Kalia, who just gets it.
Yeah.
She just gets it.
Yeah.
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 But some of the high kids are really gonna struggle.
I think we're
really
seeing
get
it.
it.
Huh? Aiden will get it. Like
Mhm.
off the
But I
bat.
think that if
But
you
that's
do
it.
have kids that do get it after you ask the big question, then we're gonna have to unpack, well, you said that, why? Well, how did you figure that out? Like, you're gonna have to start unpacking, try and talk to your partner about, this small part. And then put this small part together, and then let's put the whole answer together. Does that resonate?
Yeah.
Okay. But who's really excited about this? I am.
I like the book.
I always love it.
Yeah.
The only thing is we never get, like, I really want to go hardcore in these books, but between our bathroom
We
and
don't get enough
it's-
timing.
we don't get enough time.
So this is round 1. And hopefully next year the timing will be a little bit different so we can have more time. But let's make sure to, especially if you're coming from the bathroom and you're like, we got to get there fast, you can put it as motivation. The faster we get back in silently and calmly and get started, the faster we get into our book. And today's book is Little Bill's Shipwreck.
We know Little Bill from TV.
Yep.
You do?
Yep.
You
So
know
much
Little
of the
Bill?
show.
It's a show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so the timer went off
It's
a
still on.
while
I
ago.
don't watch
Yeah,
it.
we have to be super
Yeah.
because we have a lot of
We have a
other
lot.
items
Yeah.
even after
Okay.
this. Probably I don't want to forget you, and I know that you have lunch today. If you can just share the big ideas
Yeah.
for next week.
My big thing is parents are coming on Monday. I need slips back because I got one.
You got from Dylan's mom,
I got from Zaire's.
right? Yeah.
I never found it on my
gave
desk,
you
but
one?
my desk is a mess. You gave me Zaire's. That's it.
It was Dylan's
I
mom.
got
I'll call for
Dylan's
Dylan.
mom.
But yeah, I need the slips
Send
back.
out another one.
She's,
No, I
she's
never
also
got
a
it
really
back.
good one because she's a train
Send
operator.
another for your class for everyone.
I didn't get any responses.
Dylan's mom.
Ugh,
What time is it? It's at 12, you said?
for your class, whatever I
This
teach.
is this is what happened last year. Because of the
I didn't
time, it's like in the middle of the day.
Yeah, most
It's
of
either
our
parents
Everyone's
come early
working.
morning or they come
Okay.
in the
I would
afternoon.
So-
reach out to LT as backup.
I'm just gonna send an email out to the whole school and see if anyone knows anybody that can come in. It's hard because people are working. I put it in the sheet I sent home. I mean, it's people who fix things. I put examples with it too. So like people who fix things, people who give ideas, so authors, reporters, whatever. People who
I would also
help the
ask
community.
also the security
Yeah,
guards
I'm not.
or
Yeah,
the
and we talked about
custodians,
this.
like,
I'm gonna ask around
Melissa
school.
and see what.
But yeah, I'm a little surprised. Out of
You know
90
who-
kids, I only got like
But the
2
thing is,
back.
Don't be. The same thing happened last
You
year.
know
I
who
think
was
it's
a
just the
good
timing.
person to come? Remember, she's in 3rd grade. Her brother is in I forgot his name. Their dad was a cop. Is a cop.
I'm just
and
concerned.
He always came.
You can
Yeah,
also call up the precinct. I have had a cop just by coming to.
I know.
classroom
My
to call
biggest
them.
my biggest thing is it seems as though in the past, did you guys do it in separate classes or you did one together? Separate classes?
We'll be able to do it in.
Do it.
There's
together.
no there's no way to do it together.
We
Oh,
were
Yeah,
going to do
there's
it
Right.
together because we had social studies at the same time.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's another hard thing. Like, I could see this working out really well, and just like it would be a lot
You
easier
just
if we
got
were able
one
to do it
person
together.
per class. I think.
I think it
can give
honestly
you
it's what we're gonna look at rather than 4, which was what I was hoping for. I was like literally on the letter. I was like, the first 4 people will and I'm not getting that.
It's hard.
So I'm gonna be. That's my like after school thing today. But please, if you did get more back in them, please.
Kelton, call Kelton's mom. She's a nurse.
She's working
Yeah.
the day.
Everyone's working.
Can I give you a couple to call too?
Or people in the healthcare.
Call
system.
Ian's dad, because he's really involved and he's a cop.
Uh huh.
What about someone who works at a store? Because last
Naeem's
year,
daddy.
yeah,
It's just like most
Yeah.
people are working.
like that.
Thursday. Yeah, so you know what? Offline, just send me people who I'm calling today because today it's just gonna have to be organized somehow. I'm not gonna send another note home because it's Monday.
Yeah.
So I-
Send a
It's-
reminder.
Instead of
Send
I
a
have the reminder note for parents that are coming.
But I would still send because sometimes parents don't see stuff in their photos. So if you send a reminder on a bright piece of paper,
Yeah.
bright color paper.
With stars on it.
I wish I would have known before I sent the first one. Just do that.
Yeah.
So if you
Always
wanna
send out any notices on
Right.
paper.
Okay. So you think I should send another notice? Because
There's no
What is
harm.
it?
But do your phone call stuff in addition.
all right, so I'm gonna resend out the letter I sent out last week. Today, I guess I'll try to get it to you guys before they leave, which isn't possible, but I'll figure it out. And I'm gonna please let me know who I should just call because I wanted to have this organized today.
Try Tanisha's mom.
Okay.
She does that.
Also, we're next week's really it's gonna be like 3 lessons, even though there are 40 because every class is going away on a field trip throughout the week. So I kind of organized it so we'll be at different places for each class. They're gonna make a script and act out having an interview like we're having with the service providers, and we're also reading about Central Park service providers and someone in your class, Kalia's mom. She works in the park ranger. That's what she told me. So
Well, she just got a new city job.
Yeah, she just got it.
yeah. But anyway, so that's how we're applying service providers next week.
Cool. Thanks, Carly.
Mhm.
I'm going to speed through math a little bit.
Hold on, let me put this second time.
Thank you. Can you give me 8 just so
eight?
that I know that
It's
I-
already on 9. I don't want to.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
thanks. So the theme of next week and the big ideas are just being able to identify and describe attributes, along with now knowing that information, being able to create them themselves. So they're doing that in 2 different ways. One is on dot paper, so it's like a geoboard on paper essentially, and they're drawing triangles and quadrilaterals. And then the second one is geoboards, and this is the first time that our kids are using geoboards this year, although I'm sure they have used them in kindergarten. So I would say the big things to think about are, and also practice, is just knowing exactly what the attributes are for yourself. Because it is a little, sorry Shayna.
I told you I was.
It's the investigations guide in Unit 2 has a great list of what all of those attributes look like for the different shapes and what the different shapes look like and their characteristics. So if you're not 100% sure, like, what is a quadrilateral for yourself? Definitely check that out. Just because, like, what is a rhombus? Shane and I actually had a debate about this yesterday, and apparently it's a thing. Is a square a rhombus?
Oh,
Is
yeah,
a rhombus
that's
a
a big
square?
deal. Yeah.
There's like a whole bunch of so get clear on that for yourself. But the focus for them is going to be triangles and quadrilaterals. One thing that is historically challenging for kids is knowing that quadrilaterals and number one, what's a quadrilateral? That's probably a new word for them. Number two, like there are so many different types of triangles, and that still qualify as a triangle, even though it's not equilateral, even though it's not a right triangle or isosceles. You don't have to teach them those names, but they do have to know that triangles and quadrilaterals can look different because they share certain characteristics that will always be the same for this type of shape. So getting clear on yourself that they have triangles 3 sides, 3 vertices or corners, the sides are straight. Right, yeah, so I think that our kids should know both, but on the assessment it will appear as vertices, so they definitely need to have that language for them. This is also a week where vocabulary and language is incredibly heavy. The whole entire unit is based a lot on language, so pushing those vocabulary words and like posting up the shape names and attributes is just going to be extraordinarily key. Shayna, I know that you kind of created it where is ours? Behind Emily. Yeah, so that's an example of what ours looks like. Yeah, there's just more shapes that look exactly the same, and then you can continue adding on to the list. I might organize it, you could even organize it where you have all of your shapes in one column, the number of sides and vertices just like columned out, and then all of the characteristics like round or something like that, and just give them space there so that it's kind of like more organized and they can kind of see everything all at once. So that's one way that you might want to craft your visual anchor for this week, kind of in a different way. Other things to note are just the expectations around geoboards, which I'm sure if you've ever experienced them, making sure that you're always using 2 hands because those rubber bands sometimes go flying. And it states it in the plans, but being very careful about how they're using them for differentiation, especially when you get to the geoboards. Some kids are able to make the shapes using just 1 rubber band. Some kids might need to use multiple. And I think it's actually really helpful that they do use multiple because if you're making a quadrilateral, you need 4 rubber bands to make the 4 sides. So I might even encourage most of your kids to use that because it directly relates. And then asking like the theme, the CFU for the week is like, what makes that a blank? What makes it a triangle? What makes it a quadrilateral? How do you know? So just being able to push them on being able to understand and verbalize what those attributes are. Yes, Sheena.
Are we teaching parallelogram, the term parallelogram, or
Quadrilateral.
So I'm curious,
I'm already
because we ran into this yesterday too.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to explain what makes a square different from a rhombus unless you go into terms like right angle, right? And then at the same time, it's really hard to differentiate between the 2 rhombuses unless you use parallelogram.
No, they're both parallelograms.
Yeah.
This is what I mean.
I just think it's
You have to get clear on that.
But
I
a
think-
square is also a parallelogram, so.
Yes.
But they have different sized angles.
Yes.
Even in the rhombuses, the angles are different.
Yeah, the rhombus that we have is not a parallelogram.
Yes,
no,
it
is
is.
a parallelogram.
The
but
brown
it's not
one
a
is
square
a-
because it doesn't have right angles.
No, it's not a square.
Yeah.
But a square
It's
is
4 equal
If
sides.
it's
And there's
parallelogram.
4
Yeah.
right
And
angles.
some square. Okay.
I would stick with the term quadrilateral.
Yes.
A square is a quadrilateral, a rhombus is a quadrilateral.
A rectangle.
So is a
Yeah.
rectangle is a quadrilateral. It has 4, these are shapes that all have 4 sides. Keep it simple for them. I don't think we have to get into the nitty gritty of parallelogram and all that other jazz.
I'm just remembering
you
the
can-
IRA from last year where it was like, draw a trapezoid.
And we don't have that on this. I do remember that was not on there. They will have to draw shapes though, but that's not it. But in either case, like they should know. I do think that talking about the angles could be helpful if you do want to differentiate between the two, because that
Yeah.
could be a distinct
That is-
difference.
well, yeah, and that is the named difference between a square and
Yeah.
a rhombus of
Yeah.
any kind, skinny or regular. The
The
square,
rhombus doesn't have right angles.
no,
The
a square has all the
Four
same
right
angles, all the same angles. The rhombis do not.
So about the square.
It's about right
Not
angles.
just the
Yes,
angle.
rectangles have
Because
right
apparently
angles
a
as
square
That's
is a
how we
rhombus.
But
A square is a
That
rhombus.
has four.
Square is a
Right.
rhombus.
A rhombus
Right.
is not a
Four
square.
equal sides.
Right.
But if you look at the rhombus, the angles are, you have two big angles and two
Yeah.
short, little angles. Both the skinny and the brown one and the blue one has a big angle and
Yeah.
two big angles and two little angles. But a
Square is a rhombus.
and a rectangle.
And a rectangle,
Yes,
that's
yes.
correct.
But
Oh my god.
But as far as like what we're saying that is, then let's just get out the book and just get the book out and get
Yeah.
the language down.
I
so
think
that
we're
we
all
know.
clear about like what the
What
different
they
things
are.
Yeah, but I want to know what they say
I
about
just want to
exactly
know
what
what
to
our
say.
expectations
Yeah.
are for the kids.
And I think we need to get clear on what it is.
Like yesterday,
Goodness, I don't think we have to get
Yeah,
into like the
square has
nitty
no
gritty
side.
of
Squares has
everything.
one side.
What?
Squares have, no square, circle.
There's one side. That's what
Yeah.
the kid said?
No, a square really does have one side.
Yeah.
Or a circle really does have
I
one
said
side.
no sides. Of course, she was like, nope.
Well, that's
A
because we're
circle?
supposed to be teaching them that sides are straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circle
It is true that
has
a
one
circle
side.
has
Circle does have
one
one
side.
side.
A
but
circle
it's
has one
continuous
side?
line.
One continuous line with no angles.
My New York City public
And
school
no
education
intersections.
has failed me because I swear I learned
Isn't there a page
no
where
sides.
Me too.
No
And we
sides.
teach our kids no side.
No
But if we
side.
told them that though.
I only learned
That's
about
what's,
how to side.
that's what the
in
expectation
college.
is, because we're teaching them a side is straight and a vertice is where two sides meet. A circle has
No
no
vertices.
sides, so it has no vertices. That's what we're telling them,
No.
which is not strictly true.
Well, you told them it has one side.
There are
Good,
corners?
you're
round.
right.
Are there
Yeah,
corners
yeah.
on the
No,
circle?
but
No.
No, there are no corners.
No, so
Well,
a side
technically,
doesn't
it
mean
has
that it has
infinite
a-
corners.
but let's not
If
get
you go up
into
into
that.
higher. So guys, today we're going to talk about infinity.
And read
Yes.
this.
Is it in there?
I know that it is. I don't know if there's like in the guide that I'm missing. I think there are. Isn't there like a student workbook or something that it might actually be in there? This is not.
So
super
highlight of my
helpful.
morning, did you notice the pattern within a pattern in math meeting in the calendar?
No.
Oh well, I will find that to you guys, and it will be in the final.
How the color
set
of the ribbon
plans.
predicts the next color of the box.
Yep.
I know! That was my moment this morning during math meeting. All my kids were like, and I was like,
What?
I was so excited.
What?
The pattern within a pattern in the calendar. The color of the ribbon predicts the next color of the box.
Oh.
Right? Blew my mind.
All right then.
Sorry, Portia, what are you
Those
saying?
are the green ones.
Okay. Good.
What have you told
No,
you
we're
about
here
the
and I was
shapes?
like,
Did you just say rectangle?
No, God, no. Rectangular
A
prism.
prism?
There's a
Cube.
rectangular
Dimensions.
prism.
Cylinder.
So-
3 dimensions.
Compass.
I will anyway. I will. We're over time. I want to stay focused. I will find that list for you. It might be in the student guide. I know that it exists, so I will give that to you, and we'll get clear about it. And if you have any questions after that, just let me know so that we can get all that on the same page. So yes, that's math. Grit, hard work. It's hard. Determination. 2 words.
Hard for me too.
Citizenship. Don't throw your rubber bands
Can we
in.
have a study night?
Writing.
Writing. Okay. So the hardest lesson is probably going to be the introductory one, which is on suspense. I'm having difficulty writing the final drafts of these plans now that I'm like using this book, because I'm wondering if all of the kids are going to have books that or stories that need suspense.
Take a try.
They could try. Okay, so we're going to use the model text shortcut. Today we're working on building suspense. Suspense is when your reader really wants to know what's going to happen next. Wants it so bad they feel like they can't contain themselves, but you hold a little bit of information back to keep them turning the page. What are they doing? Turning the page. Right. Okay. Shortcut. In this story, there are some characters who are going to make a really big decision, and it's going to get them into some drama. But they author does a really, really good job of not telling us just what happens, but keeping us really wanting to know more. Let's read to see how the author does it. We looked, we listened, we decided to take the shortcut home.
Read it again, but make sure the ellipses, you have pregnant pauses, and then the we is we looked, because the print also says that. It's dark.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to go really fast.
But this is the part where you're wanting kids to figure out this suspense.
We looked. We listened.
Good.
We decided to take the shortcut. That's when I would have the kids do that too. Dun dun dun. Hands back folded. We should have taken the road, but it was late and it was getting dark. So we started down the track. Now we've just read 2 pages in this book, and I'm noticing that nothing has really happened so far. I know where the characters are, so I know the setting. Nice job, Shayna. And I know who the characters are because I can see them in the pictures, but so far, all I know is what the characters are feeling and thinking. Let's keep reading.
Stop. You can actually go back and say, but I do notice, because we're talking about author's craft, I know where the setting is, which is great. It's in the picture, but listen to how the author wrote the opening.
The first
page. The author said that we looked. They did something. They used their eyes and they used their ears. We looked. We listened. And those 2 things are really important when you're at a railroad track. They didn't tell you that they were at a railroad track, that was part of the shortcut, but the author chose to look and to listen. Ooh, that's part of our 5 senses. What else?
Wouldn't we also point out the ellipses
Mm-hmm.
in terms of suspense? Yeah.
Do we teach ellipses yet, or do we? This is when
They
we
know.
introduce
I mean,
it.
they know
what it is.
what that is. But for the sake of suspense, I'm not so sure if they get that.
They know what it is
Yeah.
from kindergarten.
Yeah.
Okay.
We knew when the passenger trains passed, but the freight trains didn't run on schedule. They might come at any time. We should take the road. The track ran along a mound. Its steep slopes were covered with briars. There was water at the bottom, surely full of snakes. We laughed, we shouted, we sang, we tussled, we threw stones. We passed the cutoff that led back to the road.
And then you can do a pause. and
Because that's
author-
really
yeah,
the end of the
yeah,
beginning.
Yep, and then you would want to unpack what they were looking at, the briars, and their thinking.
Mommy, can you put the headphones on? Thank you.
You're going to want to point out how the author included the thing that they thought on the both pages. We should have taken the road. That's a reflective thought on both pages. And then also you want to highlight, and the author described even more of the setting and the danger that could lurk behind. That all builds suspense.
So it's thoughts and details that
Using
make you
the
interested
senses.
and want you to make you want to keep track, which is suspense.
Yep, and using the senses. Because if it wasn't about danger and it was about a party, you might use and there were some streamers, and I can smell this sweet smell. I wonder, and it's my favorite cake. You know, like I love this cake.
So I think I put in there a suggestion about like coming downstairs on Christmas morning and your model text or your teacher story being like just what you're doing. I'm walking down the stairs, this is what I'm smelling, this is what I'm wondering in my brain, and then pointing out that you as a reader probably have a really good idea of when it is and where it is and why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, even though I never came out and said it. It's the same skill that you use in guided reading when you're making inferences.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, when using the mentor text, that is the model. Then your Christmas story becomes, now we're going to practice this together. We are going to do some of this work that we did, that we heard in Shortcut, and we're going to practice that together using the Christmas story. but it's you're gonna wanna pull out the phrases and the key points from Shortcut in revise. And I found a link about Rombi.
Didn't I tell you it was Rombi?
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids
Definitely
laughed,
is
and then I
Rombi.
felt really dumb for ever having said that word. Make terrible teaching decisions.
It's Rombi.
Latin.
Rombi.
That's what I said too. Because they started saying it, and I was like,
Rhombuses is also correct.
oh, it is?
Are
But-
you done, Katie?
Oh. I don't
So
feel
let's also check in about Nicholas and see how all the things that you guys put in place for my first BSCST have been working.